Let's look a little bit deeper into the circumference of a circle. By definition, the circumference of a circle is the distance around the circle. In other words, it is the perimeter of the circle. And we're going to use the number pi to calculate circumference, or even diameters or radii later on. So these diagrams kind of explain where the circumference is on a circle. So it's the distance around the circle, and here's the distance around the circle. Okay, please keep in mind that pi is basically the ratio between circumference and diameter. And if you'd like a refresher on why that is, please go watch the video, the first video in this section called What is Pi, just to see some visuals and demos on how we discovered pi to begin with. Okay, now to calculate circumference, we have some important formulas. The first formula is that circumference is equal to pi times diameter, and we get this one directly from here. We basically use algebra to move the diameter to the other side by multiplying by d on both sides. So here, circumference is equal to pi multiplied by the diameter. Okay. The second formula is the same, but we're using radius as opposed to diameter. So circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. Both of these formulas are equal to one another. They're equivalent to one another. What you should note though is that you should always use the pi button. Never ever use 3.14 in this course. Okay, we want our numbers to be as accurate as possible, so use the pi button on your scientific calculator. If you don't have a physical scientific calculator, there are a few available online. There's one called the Desmos Scientific Calculator, and there's one called the GeoGebra Scientific Calculator. You can just Google those, and they do the same thing as any other calculator. But on a test, you will be expected to use a scientific calculator. Now, the next two formulas are not in your formula sheet, but they are very important, so I suggest that you write them in your cheat sheet for your test. The first one relates diameter and radius. If you know the radius and you want to know the diameter, you just multiply the radius by 2, and that gives you the diameter. If you have the diameter and you want to know the radius, you take that diameter and divide it by 2 to get the radius. Essentially, the diameter is double the radius. So if this is your diameter from here to here, this is your radius. Or you can say that the radius is half your diameter. Okay? So I'm going to clear this page so that you can take a screenshot if you like. And now what we're going to do is we're going to try one example. This example reads, the diameter of a circular element on an electric stove is 25 centimeters. What is the element's radius? So the question here gives us d for diameter. So diameter is equal to 25 centimeters. And the radius is missing. So the radius equals question mark. So we don't really need to work with circumference here at all. So the two formulas that I'm going to be looking at are these two. Okay, so I'm going to use the second one because it tells me that you can take your diameter and divide it by 2 to get the radius. So radius equals diameter divided by 2. But I know that the diameter is equal to 25, and 25 divided by 2 is equal to 12.5. And the units are the same. They should be in centimeters. If you're unsure which formula to use, the one that's on its own, the letter or the variable that's on its own, should be the one that you're looking for. It should be the mystery number. So here, the radius is the value that I'm looking for. That's the mystery number. So I pick this formula because it's on its own. If I was looking for diameter, that was the missing number, I would use this formula because the diameter is on its own. Okay? So question B is asking us to estimate, and that's the key word, estimate the circumference of the element. Please be aware that whenever you're asked to estimate, you're not expected to write the accurate value. You're expected to show your knowledge of various strategies to come up with an approximate answer. So here, to estimate the circumference of an element, I'm going to start by writing the formula, because this is the relationship between circumference and diameter, or circumference and radius. Instead of using pi as it is, I'm going to estimate pi to be around 3. Okay? So the circumference is approximately 3 multiplied by the diameter. 3 times 25. So that's approximately 75 centimeters. So you see how estimating is quick, it's efficient, and it's close to our accurate value. The last question asks us to calculate the exact value for the circumference to the nearest centimeter. Nearest centimeter means we're going to round to the nearest whole number. We're not going to have any decimals here. So in this case, we're using the equal sign and the pi button on our calculator. We are not estimating here. Okay, so I'm going to just reach out for my calculator. There we go. And I'm going to substitute the values that I know. So circumference is equal to pi. I don't know what pi, well, we physically cannot write all of pi on paper, right? So we just write pi multiplied by 25. So on your calculator, you're going to hit the button by pi and then multiply by 25. So let's try that. We get 78.5398164, and it keeps going. Remember, we're rounding to the nearest whole number, so we should only have 2 numbers here. We're going to look at this decimal place. It is 5, which means that the circumference is equal to 79 centimeters. This is the circumference of our circle. Let's compare it to our estimate. They should be close to one another. So we got 79 centimeters for our circumference, and our estimate was 75. So those are very, very close to one another. In the next video, we're going to go over additional examples on how to calculate circumference when we have the radius or diameter.